Today I worked outside in the rain. I discovered a massive fire risk. And no, the poor electrician was bleeding. And I saw the aftermath of a huge car accident on the attic. Alright, but let's wind back. Customer had these outdoor lights that weren't turning on as they were meant to. They were controlled by this sensor all the way up here, and he wanted another sensor on the shed. So let's see if it's even possible. I looked to see if we had a live wire down here, but sadly there were no live wires. But inside the shed we had this massive junction box, and in here I quickly discovered that we had some live wires. And this black wire here ran all the way outside to the junction box outside, meaning I could bring a live wire outside. So I agreed with the customer to simply just put a sensor on the other side of the shed like this, and with the sensor mounted on the wall, it was ready to turn on the power. Well, not really, we still need to get the live wire to come out to the sensor, but that was quickly fixed inside the junction box. The customer also had this old junction box that was just hanging outside with a broken lid, so we were like, hang on, shouldn't we just replace that? And yep, we did. Alright, back to the sensors, because the first sensor here still didn't work as intended. I agreed with the customer to simply just take it down, replace it with a new one, and move the new one further down so it would detect people on the staircase. And with the new sensor up in place, it was time to see if everything worked. I didn't want the sensor to react when people were walking out on the street, so I had to make sure it didn't turn on before I walked close to the property, or I guess close to the shed. But yeah, as you can see, it worked. Up at the door, they had to walk down the staircase before, but now you just need to peek out and it turns on. Also, I had hit my head on the ceiling earlier today, and this is when I realized I had been bleeding the entire day. Luckily, the customer wasn't home, so I hadn't been walking around like a bloody man, and in the afternoon, I was still bleeding, so I guess I'm gonna die now? Well, I hope not, I guess. With the taste test done and the lights programmed, they will now turn off and turn on when it's evening, and not until then. It was time to look inside. Because inside the customer had these old downlights and they were no longer working for some weird reason. And as I pulled it down, I don't know what to say. The cable broke. Like, what happened here? Clearly, this old installation was in a very poor condition, and as I pulled down the cable, it was just breaking by the minute. I mean, would you look at the state of this downlight? Holy smokes, this is a fire risk if I've ever seen one. So I took the second one down to see if it was the same, and yep, it was exactly the same. I mean, look at these connections. Oof, they have been nice and toasty. Even the insulation, which is a bright yellow color, is completely dark from the heat. Even more scary, these two downlights were still working. So I thought I better go down and turn off the power before I start playing with them. And as I pulled the one that's working down the ceiling, you can see here, the insulation is just naked. The cables are naked. What in the world, man? Either way, I need to fix this. So I jumped up on the attic because we need to fix it. That's where I witnessed this huge car accident. I mean, I don't imagine the force this guy must have been driving into the wall to make such a big damage. While I was up here, I may as well just remove all of the spider webs because, you know, I'm a gentleman, and I had to get all the way over there because this was where the old transformers were located. So I grabbed my mask, I got my jacket, and I went up at the attic once again. Luckily, we had these two wooden sticks that I could use to actually walk on because, well, you gotta be careful when you're up at an attic because, well, you don't want to fall through. Either way, you can see how easy it was to get through this. I mean, lovely working positions. But I pulled through and we were now on the other side of the chimney. And yeah, let's fix what's going on up here. Just a short dramatic clip of where I came from. But yeah, these here are the old transformers. Up here, they actually look very nice. Luckily, we have this junction box here, meaning I can just disconnect the transformers from the junction box. And looking inside, yeah, we have these weird bubbles on the cables, so I guess they've been very hot, or maybe it's brother called me and cut me off, but either way, I don't know if they have been hot or if it was just high humidity, but I removed the old cables. We also had some interesting color connections, but yeah, I waited for my coworkers to join because I needed a little bit of help while I did that. While I waited, the customer wanted the ventilator to be replaced, so I did that. I could pull a little bit of the cables through the ceiling. I didn't do a lot, but well, a few less cables for my coworker to help me with. But yeah, I did this one. Back up at the attic because my coworker has arrived. And yeah, this is my return trip from doing all of the new cables and pulling them. And as you can see, it's just lovely. I mean, at this stage, it was number 5 or the 6th time that I've been back and forward because yep, you needed to check different things, and just such a lovely job, man. I love it. But as you can see, we now have new cables for the new downlights. And let's just show how I actually made these downlights, at least how we do it in Denmark. We get the downlight, we put it in, to make sure the cables doesn't fall out. We put the cables in the different connections, and it's time to push it up through the ceiling, and finally fixing it down to the ceiling. Then we have the light itself. This here is a GU10 light bulb. I don't know what they're called. We just push it up through the ceiling and click everything in, and that's it, John. Painter's gonna scream because my hands are so dirty. Either way, that was number 1, but we have 5 more to go. That was incorrect. I had only had 4 more to go, but either way, we fixed them all. And at this stage, I was becoming quite a tired man from walking around on that attic. But yeah, let's turn on the power. Nothing popped, meaning, yep, it should be working. So I jumped back up to the first floor, turned on the light, and it looked like it was working, but it wasn't. The ventilator over here was working fine. But I used the old dimmer, and the old dimmer couldn't handle the new LEDs, so I had to grab another dimmer to fix that all out. Wasn't surprising for me, but either way, you gotta try it, because maybe we could have spared that new dimmer. But we put it in here behind the switch, and with that, the customer also said, hang on, can't you change the ventilator? Because right now it's controlled by a switch, and they would like it to be controlled by humidity. And of course, yeah, I can do that, but you can see a major color difference if we had to remove the old switch. So I couldn't handle that, so I removed all of it and just replaced it with some new white stuff. Now, before I left, I decided just to make the painters happy by removing all of my dirty fingerprints on the ceiling. I replaced the ventilator, of course, so this is now humidity controlled, and as you can see, I just decided to clean a little bit of the walls. This wasn't even my mess, but yeah, may as well clean. This here was definitely my mess, but look at that, it's all gone. Wow, the magic of editing. And even better, the light still turned on and now was even able to be dimmed up and down. Lovely. The biggest distraction today was definitely the guy in the mirror. I mean, what a handsome lad. Either way, we can see here the first light and the new ventilator is up and working, and we have the other 4 downlights here up and working. Finally, I jumped down to make sure all the RCD was tripping and clicking just as they were meant to, and yep, there was no issues. We had 2, so I had to test both of them because I've been working on both their separate circuits. And with everything tested, it was time to pack up and yeah, go back home.